Hello, everybody. Dan DeFedericis, Saratoga Report here on yet another cold January morning. I am here with Chuck Marshall, Saratoga Springs resident, and more importantly, the candidate for the remainder of the term for the Commissioner of Public Works, Saratoga Springs Commissioner of Public Works. That was left vacant when Jason Golub stepped down over the summer. And there is an election, folks, on January 28th, a special election on January 28th. It's important for democracy that people get out and vote that day. Chuck, well, welcome. Oh, and I have to mention this is sponsored content. Chuck, welcome. And how are you doing? How's the campaign going?
I think it's going well. I mean, I think I'm out there. I now have a name that people are familiar with. Obviously, also I have an opponent, so that drew a little more attention to the race. But my signs are out. Starting to go door to door. Some literature is going to hit the mailboxes soon, and I think we're on the right path.
That's great. Now, listen, some people do know you, but some don't. Who is Chuck Marshall? Give the quick bio. Your roots, your family, your career.
I guess we'll start with Bonnie and Pat Marshall. We're both, civil servants of the New York City ilk. Pat's a retired New York City police sergeant. Bonnie, a school secretary that ended her career in Boston Spa. I have a brother who's a nurse practitioner in Columbia County. So relatively speaking, we're all, local. My wife is a Wilton native. And for us, it was only, the only option for living was Saratoga. Both our kids go to Division Street, which we're very happy and, proud of. I think the school's a great school. And that's, who we are. We live on West Circular Street over on the west side, and just happy to be in the city.
That's great. I can relate to that sentiment. And let's hone in on the office a little bit of the Commissioner of Public Works. Important, they're all important, of course, but this is very important to people. It really hits home. It's direct. Are your streets plowed and things like that? Why are you running for this office, and how are you qualified specifically for this office?
Yeah, I've said this since the onset. I applied for the temporary appointment once it became a vacancy. I have a unique skill set in that I have an undergraduate degree in civil engineering from Clarkson University. I have an advanced degree in public administration from the University of Albany. My career has really been a mix of public and private sector. I interned for the assembly for the former assemblyman Bobby DeAndrea, who's a local guy. I stayed at the assembly. At the time I departed to return to Clarkson, I was the environmental analyst and agriculture analyst for the assembly minority. I went on to Clarkson, where I worked for an engineering firm. I did the Leadership Saratoga program, and at the Leadership Saratoga program, I was introduced to my current position, which I'm the real estate director for Stewart Shops. So in that work, I've participated in over 500 municipal meetings, planning boards, zoning board of appeals, city councils, town boards. And then because of that, expertise, former Mayor Meg Kelly appointed me to the planning board to fill a vacancy, and I've been in that position since 2022.
I'm sort of in awe here, and I'm not, this is very genuine because I'm hearing this for the first time. I have had people tell me generally Chuck's very qualified. It's something that he felt if he were ever to take a political position, it would be that one. I didn't know how well qualified you are. I didn't know you went to Clarkson for engineering. I didn't know all of your political experience. That is really impressive, Chuck.
And not that I did it intentionally. I did also do a term on the Saratoga County Sewer District.
Okay. Wow, you really do bring really well-rounded, unique qualifications as positions, and I'm genuinely just expressing it right here, hearing it for the first time. That's terrific. And let me switch a little bit to Chuck Marshall and the practice of politics, if you will, or the practice of statesmanship. Saratoga Springs, this city council especially, needs statesmen and stateswomen on it. They need adults in the room. They need competent people. So sometimes that's been the case, and sometimes it's not. Too often times it's been not. How will Chuck Marshall add to that statesmanship, the adult in the room, the competence of the city as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of examples that I would go to. I mean, I look at my, track record having, done, 500 meetings. I mean, over the course of those 500 meetings, there have been legal challenges, and I have a over 90% success rate on my, any instance where I've been involved in a legal challenge. But the bigger issue is that the number of legal challenges has been really diminished by an ability to listen to everyone's concerns and work through work through the problems that exist. I think that the fact that there is a special election and I'm the only person on the ballot is an example of that. And that's that I pay attention to the rules. So on October 15th, the council passed a proclamation indicating there would be a January 20th election. And on October 25th, I filed my paperwork. I filed my paperwork because on September 16th, Brian Quill wrote a letter that said you should get a letter from the Attorney General. On October 25th, that letter from the Attorney General came in, and I just went and said, we need to make sure we file our paperwork. So on October 25th, we filed paperwork with the city clerk, and then with the County Board of Elections. And then on October 28th, we did the same. So I have a real big rule at the Saratoga Springs Planning Board and any planning board I've presented to, because my life plays out on the public record so extensively that you have to play by the rules regardless of what side of the dais you're sitting on. And that's really the record I'm going to run on.
Terrific. This is an election for essentially an 11-month partial term, right? Because that's all that's left in the term. Nothing stops you from running again, but it's about this shortened term. What would you like to accomplish? What would you like to solve or address during that period, Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, I have what I'll call a 5-point plan on my website, and it has things to do with basic leadership and the statesman stuff that you're talking to about my experience, utilizing my experience to build on that. And then I go into some specifics the water treatment plant and the ice rink are probably two of the biggest electric users in the city. So is there a way to utilize those electric currents to become a positive cash flow for the city to reinvest in the buildings? As I'm learning and speaking with Mark Torpy, who is the former planning board chair, and really involved in the development of the solar field, is that the field itself may actually, when I say the field, I'm referring to the solar field on Weibel. The field itself may be able to take additional users. So while my plan for, the ice rink and the water treatment might not come to fruition, I think there is a way to monetize some additional efficiencies there. The next thing I want to do, which I think is a relatively straightforward one, and it's a legislative thing, when the planning board has a project that they don't require sidewalk installation, they have a payment in lieu of fund. And what the city has done is they've established a missing link sidewalk program over where I live. I think a good example is on, you can now walk from Route 50 along New and Empire all the way to Pitney Meadow Farms. So if the payment in lieu of fund can be dedicated toward the missing link program, I think that we could have investment in sidewalks, which would be like an instance of the Caroline Street School, where we're not looking at oh my God, what do we do? We could identify funding up front to, have a coffer, so to speak, to turn to for those projects.
Can I interrupt you there? The knowledge you have at that granular level that I'll never have is impressive. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't hurt your flow here, but keep going.
No. Look, I'm not you're I think a lot of people are going to find this about me. I'm the least political person there is, in a conversation with a good friend of mine the other day, when he was trying to explain to someone And he was unfamiliar. I was running on the Republican ticket. He's like, if anything, this guy's a technocrat. He's not a Democrat or a Republican. So I just really, people, it's not my money. It's our money. We all chip in. It's a little portion of every project is someone else's. And I just think that there's ways to maximize that value, and that's what I bring to the table. I bring to the table someone that's seen this show, several hundred times and can just literally make it about making it better. I'll use this as an example. So the planning board was reviewing what's going to be the Chipotle in front of the bowling alley. And, there were some concerns because the planning board, the initial proposal had what they call the Chipotle lane. And basically it's like an app ordering. And then once you order off the app, you drive through and pick up your food. And the planning board didn't like the idea that the Chipotle lane was in front of the store because that's where like the sidewalk entrance should be. And I said, guys, like, I get it. Like that might not be the best thing for this area. And again, like that's right around the corner from my house. So it's not like I'm like not in my backyard or anything like that. I go, but the bar that's on that corner is not doing any service to the community in any way, shape, or form. So why don't we, instead of just saying no, why don't we find a way to make that project work so that the applicant gets what they want and the city gets something out of it other than vacancy? One of my largest concerns with the treasure that Saratoga is that if we do things that cause vacancy, our downtown's not going to be what it is.
I agree. And that starting gate, I know it had a couple different names over the years. It had become an eyesore on a major roadway in Saratoga. I think it's been vacant since 2015. And
I bought my house in 2016. You would know better, if it predates that. But again, it's just not doing it's doing nobody any good. So you may not love the Chipotle and yeah, like it would be maybe better if it was a mom and pop, like small local restaurant or something like that. But again, the reality is that, and this is what I tell people all the time, like you do the deal, because that's the deal in front of you, or you do the deal that's in front of you because that's the deal, and that's what you have to work with. Like if you're willing to work with people, there's no I win, you lose scenario. Everyone's got to work towards, some version of win-win.
And you may have answered this because you touched on it when you mentioned the word technocrat, but we have a mutual friend, and that friend knows you better than I know you. And he said to me, Chuck said he would never want to run for public office. However, the office of the Commissioner of Public Works is one that would be really near and dear to his heart. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a position I hide from. I've somewhat, I've been on the periphery. My brother-in-law is Matt Veach. I'm not gonna, hide that fact. So I'm on the periphery of local politics, and again, my work dealing with municipalities, I deal with a lot of local elected officials. I have said, historically that this is literally the only job I would, run for. And my wife and I actually laugh because both of us feel in a way it's not a job you run for, it's a job you should really apply for. And I have that experience. So like in the instance of why I want to do this, again, it's those little things that I think I bring a unique experience of a skill set to the form of government we have. I think it's necessary that people, particularly in public works and public safety. I mean, like, look at the difference between Tim Cole and anyone else that, I know that's done the job before him. I mean, he's a law enforcement professional for, 20 plus years or 30 years, whatever it was, who can sit there and say, like, as a law enforcement professional, here's what we do. Here's how we evaluate these things. And that's that kind of similar mindset that I hope to bring to the table.
That's terrific, folks. Again, election is January 28th. Important, whoever you're supporting, it's important that you get out and make this a strong democracy and vote for the candidate of your choice, and don't just assume that one candidate has it because he's the only ballot candidate. That's important. So, Chuck, thanks for joining us. I wish you the best of luck going forward, and we'll be seeing you again.
All right, thanks, Dan.
Take care.
Later, man.